Seeing the hour of 1 o'clock has come, I'd like to call the Law and Government / Liquor meeting to order. Kathy, can I ask you to call roll, please?
Sager. Wegner.
Yes. Here.
Hendricks. Campbell. Kunkel.
Here.
Shorten.
Here.
Althoff.
Here. And Carolyn is on her way. And what I really would like to do, if it's okay with everybody, is kind of roll relatively quickly through the agenda, have our presentations, which we have put off. We really need to get those done, and then have a little bit of a lengthy discussion about our legislative agenda, which we also have put off on 2 separate occasions. So seeing that, do I have a motion to accept the minutes as presented? Motion by Kelly, seconded by Shorten. Roll call. Kelly? Yes. Mike, Matt?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And Pam also says yes. Thank you. Minutes passed. Sorry about that. Is there any public comment? I don't believe so. No. Member comments? Seeing none, going on to new business. Again, you've just been provided the information, as we always do, with regard to the new liquor licenses. And seeing nothing else under new business, we'll move right on. There's no routine consent agenda. On to the presentations. Sheriff.
Yes, ma'am.
It is all in your hands at
It
this
is.
point. Or Sandy.
It's all in Sandy's hands.
It's all in Sandy's
Okay.
hands. I was trying to be respectful of the title, but Sandy?
I appreciate it.
So I brought my bodyguards today to this committee. If you guys don't mind, we're going to go ahead and start with Deputy Caitlin Kelly. I always want to. So she can explain about our wounded warrior, because he is a trooper today.
So we currently look a little bit like a rattlesnake today, because yesterday while on duty, during the course of a traffic stop, Jet here, my partner, was a little excited and spinning in the back of the car for probably a while while we conducted the traffic stop. And while he was doing that, he split the end of his tail open. So we apologize for our haphazard look today, but we're fine and we're prepared for duty.
Is he filing a workman's comp claim?
We did already.
Did you?
Yeah, we
Okay,
filed
thank
a
you.
claim and
It's
I
denied.
haven't heard anything. So I'm Caitlin, this is my partner Jet. He's 3 years old and very excited to be here. We have 3 German Shepherds right now, 2 assigned to patrol. I'm assigned to the narcotics / intel division, and then we have the bloodhound. Jet and all of the shepherds are trained in tracking, so any missing person, adult or child obviously, apprehension, so criminal apprehension, bite work, narcotics, which is primarily what we're used for, article searches, so when I lose my keys, he can help me find them, but if somebody throws something out the window of a moving vehicle or something like that, we can use him to trace the most recent human scent, so he'll ignore other trash in the street. And he is also cadaver trained. Yeah. So our duties are all of those things while on patrol, but we also do things like this, meet and greets. We do school searches for all the area schools if they ask us to. We'll do jail searches weekly. And we assist outside agencies, like I said, for cadaver searches or anything if we're working and outside agencies don't have a canine and they're looking for a canine, we're always more than happy to respond. Yeah, missing persons for outside agencies on top of our own agency. Yeah.
So talk a little bit about training, how long it takes from the beginning till dog goes on duty, and then is there retraining involved
yes.
as well?
So
can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So our initial academy with the dog is 8 weeks, and they're typically 10 to 12-hour days for the full 8 weeks. The first week is your 8-hour days, and then from there on after you do things like tracking and scent work in the morning, and then apprehension work at night. So they end up being 10 to 12-hour days throughout that first 8 weeks. But everything that the dogs do is a perishable skill. Everything. They're athletes, and everything that they do is comparable to that. So if you don't get the tracking training in, or the narcotics training in, or the apprehension training in, they'll lose it. They won't be able to maintain that skill set without having it re-brought to their attention. Plus, the various scenarios, because they do so much, the scenarios that they could encounter on the street, there's hundreds of thousands of them, right? So we want to introduce them to, this is what this looks like in training before they see it for the first time on the street. That, you know, we don't want them surprised by anything ever. So we want to get them as much experience in training before we put them on the road. So right now, we go to narcotics training typically once a week, and general maintenance training once a week, which is tracking, apprehension work, whatever it is that week that we're working.
And then lifetime span of the use of one of the dogs, typically how long are they on
9
duty?
to 12, depending on how healthy. 12, I would say, is a pretty long range, but typically 9 to 12.
But it's a good investment, obviously.
Absolutely, yeah. These guys not only truly help the community, but I have often, as maybe unfortunate as it is to say, used him to keep me out of danger. And if there's a scenario where it's me and my partners put ourselves in danger, or we can use him even as a de-escalation technique, a lot of people decide they don't want to mess with the police or a dog when they hear the bark. So he's a fantastic de-escalation tool, sit stay, and a deterrent overall. So they're amazing investments. They're great with the school searches and the demos. We do demos all summer long for different kids groups and adult groups and things like that. And they just can do so much that they can't.
And you talk about investment, so before we even go through the application or the what Caitlin talked about with the training, the initial training, we obviously have people that put in for the spots. And we recognize that this is a very high visibility position, so that we want to make sure that obviously we trust all of our deputies to do their jobs, but you know, we take this one seriously. So much that we invite the trainer from the kennel as part of the interview process, because we also understand that prior to the initial training, the trainer tries to match the personality of the dog with the officer that is going to be responsible, because they are tied at the hip. I mean, obviously, literally and figuratively, they're at each other's hips 24/7, 365. Dogs go home with them. When dogs retire, dogs are part of their family as well. As I would assume most of you know. But there's a lot of time and effort that goes into, even before the dog and the officer start training together, work is put in for that. And then on top of that, not only are the dogs go through training constantly, but there's an annual certification that has a zero tolerance. I mean, you have to be 100% or you don't pass. So, and all our dogs go down to Cook County now still?
Yeah, we're in Broadview this year.
Yep, so they go down to Cook County, they do testing on all of their training, basically. It's
The state certification is the narcotics in Broadview.
so, which is not easy. I know it's stressful on our handlers. The dogs don't know any different, but that's, if they don't pass, they're not gonna be able to do their stuff. So I think the agency, I at least take a lot of pride in knowing that all of our dogs, when they do it on the first time and they get through it. So that's basically, shows how hard these guys work day in and day out with the dogs.
Can we note that Member Campbell has joined us? And then, does anybody have any questions with regard to the information?
Well, I apologize for interrupting. I really do apologize. I had the wrong time, so thank goodness I'm very early for my 1:30. So, but I have seen demonstrations a couple of times, and they're fabulous to watch if you haven't had an opportunity at
Thank
the
you.
Hills.
We
And
appreciate that.
then you did it at your open house as well. So
Yeah.
it's great to see them in action.
Anything?
I just want to say, I don't know who it was, but quite a few months ago, there was an incident in our neighborhood where there were sheriff's officers driving around, and we heard a young man walking down our street, and he was very troubled and sounded like he was going to hurt himself, and we called 911, and I would say within 15 minutes, there were police officers with a dog, were right in front of our house, and they had been already searching for this man and found him because of the dog. So, thank you.
Yeah, of course, that's what we're supposed to be here doing, and we're happy to do it. All he wants to do is work. like Sheriff Titleman said, they tried to pair the dogs up with the handler, actually opposite personalities. Somebody thought that I was the most calm human on the planet, because he's ready to go 24/7. But it's a phenomenal position, and I couldn't be more grateful.
It's fun to watch the different personalities in our dogs because they're all different personalities, but together they're pretty legit. So.
And I'm assuming you have one on every shift?
No, so the two canines on patrol are on different day off groups. Polly works afternoon schedule, and John works power shift now. So we recognize the majority of calls for service that we saw were in the afternoon and in late evening calls. And then our bloodhound up until recently was working day shifts. So we were covering the majority of the shifts. And then Caitlin's she's all over the place with her job. It's on a need basis, but our dogs are available 24/7, 365. So at a moment's call, they're there to help.
Member Wagner, I apologize.
No, I interrupted. I just want to know if the dogs know each other and get along.
They know each other. They all train together. They do get along. They're not dog aggressive. I will say that they all want to be first. They all want to be the one working. So there's definitely an element of me first. But me first. So he doesn't know what we're doing. He doesn't know why we're standing still. He doesn't know what the heck is going on. But if you guys are interested at all, Sheriff Titleman and I provided him with some pseudo-narcotics. They can't hurt anybody, they can't hurt the dog. This is actually pseudo-heroin, and we can place it out, and I can show you how we would do a drug search.
Watch the whole thing, just like,
No cheating, no cheating,
no cheating.
no cheating. No cheating.
You're cheating.
Cheating. Not trying, not cheating. Hey, down. Look.
Oh, good boy. Oh, good boy.
Okay.
So we'll just start with the chairs and then we'll cut across and go around. Ready? Don't.
Easy, don't. Easy, don't hit.
I want to see who's getting nervous right now.
Oh, good. Slobber on his face. Step. Good. Easy. Easy. So he is an active alert canine. All of our canines are. So when he alerts, he will dig and scratch. That's his alert to me that he's found some sort of narcotic. Easy go. Easy go. Easy. Easy. So the strong exhale is him blowing out, being in odor. Oh, should I let this sit for a little bit? Go. Where? Oh, where? Show. Good. And that's all he cares about.
Good job, Jet.
Nicely done.
You want to talk to him about the reward system?
Sure. So for everything that he does well, he gets rewarded for. And this toy is his reward, regardless of what it is. At the end of a track, he gets his toy. At the end of a drug search, whether or not he finds drugs, he gets his toy because we want to encourage him to alert only when he's positive, when he's found something that he's positive about, and not to alert or give us some sort of notification just because he's looking for his toy. So we train them like, you're always going to get it, whether you find something or not, and when you find something, fantastic. When you don't, you're still going to get rewarded. So for any type of work that he does, he gets a reward, whether it's obedience tracking, article searches, drug work. and then his alerts themselves are a little bit different. So digging and scratching on narcotics. For article searches, they lay down, specifically because if we were to be looking for a weapon or a gun or a knife or something, and he were to dig on that, it's potentially dangerous for everybody. So if I'm asking him to search for an article, his alert to that is just a straight down, as opposed to the digging and scratching.
The dogs are an invaluable resource to us, especially when it comes to our narcotics unit. As we know, drugs are being moved around on an often basis. We get a lot of intelligence of vehicles that are leaving and coming to and from, stash houses or whatnot. I'm not gonna give all the secrets up because I got someone there that will try to. Yeah, right? But, I mean, we're only allowed to, we only can do so much, and the dogs do just so much more for us to help further investigations. So you talk about investment, these dogs really are an invaluable asset to our agency. If we could have 100 dogs in shift, not only are they great for that, but they're the best partners you can have. They're the most loyal employees that we have at this agency, and not only to our to the handlers, but to the agency, because they show up even with broken tails. They'll show up and work every single day.
You don't care, do you, buddy? You don't care, we're ready to go.
Yeah.
What about, we had talked about it, now that cannabis is legal. Was there significant retraining with regard to that?
We still don't
Sniffing,
print our
anything is
dogs
still-
on
okay.
cannabis, yeah, because the reality is that as you know, the statute says that you have to be able to transport, if you have it legally, you have to transport an odorless sealed container. If the dog can smell it, it's not an odorless container. I know that there's some legislation that they're trying to clean that up a little bit, but the reality is we're not using the dog for the individual that's coming back from, legally obtaining cannabis from a dispensary. We are targeting individuals that are doing bad things in our community, and they are, like I said, they are just another resource that we can further those types of investigations.
Thank you.
Yeah, I did have a question. So
Member Campbell?
so if they're going for narcotics versus an article search, obviously you're saying something different.
Yes.
But it's very clear to them.
Yep, so
Okay.
the keyword is much different. So what they're trained with during our initial 8 weeks for narcotics is dope. And then what he's trained with for an article is seek. And that will tell him to find any fresh human scent. It's not necessarily specific to one person, it's any fresh human scent. However, for tracking purposes, he is scent discriminant. All of our dogs are scent discriminant. So if I supply him with a starting article, he should remain true to that article during the track. So if there's like competing scents on the track, or articles that don't belong to our offender or victim who we're tracking, then he should stay the course of the original scent that he was provided.
Unfortunately, a lot of times when we do tracks, we're great at our job, but when sometimes we start looking for people, we litter up that track with our own scents, and that's why that scent discrimination is important, so that dog knows this is the only smell I need, regardless of all of us come trampling through an area and try to basically ruin the scene for him.
Yeah, tracking is incredibly difficult, and we make it harder for
Yeah.
them, but they're still very successful.
Any other questions regarding Officer Jake?
Kelly? Oh, Jet?
Jet,
Jet.
sorry.
What do you think, bud?
Thought maybe he had a few statements. No?
You talked earlier, you heard him.
Yeah,
Did
he
it
was
break?
vocal enough earlier.
Did it break?
Yeah, he cracked the skin out of the back of his tail, whacking around. Crazy.
Happy guy.
He just wanted to go to work.
He's got big feelings, and it happens, so he couldn't have been phased any less. Cool, well, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much for the time.
Thank you.
That was great.
Right.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and start going through some of the pictures. This is a PowerPoint of really just pictures to kind of show you a little bit about the sheriff's office. What the sheriff is handing out right now is this. This is the org chart for the sheriff's office. For those of you who have been here, you got this in our budget review. But on the back, you'll see the breakdown of FTEs in the categories. So we have 5 major divisions, well 6 with the police social worker program, court security, business office, operations patrol, operations investigations, and corrections. So this December, we had a change of command. So we have Chief Schmay from the city of McHenry there on the left, our new sheriff, December 1st, and then our under sheriff, Gucci from Algonquin. As she mentioned, as Officer Kelly mentioned, they go into the schools. Well, we also have our special services division that goes into the schools when requested for different events. Here's a K-9 demonstration in a school. Here is our new training facility. I'm sure the sheriff will talk about this, but we have been in there. We have it demoed now, and we're just waiting for the construction permit to go through, which hopefully goes through at the end of this week, and we'll go ahead and get started. So we're looking right now to the end of July, early August, to have that completed, and of course we'll have a ribbon cutting and we'll invite the who's who. This is our dispatch center. If you haven't done a tour yet in the sheriff's office, please come and do so. This is one of the places we'll take you. It's really amazing what these folks do. They sit in that same spot for their whole shift. Sometimes it's quiet, and when it's not, it's very exciting, a lot going on. So please come and visit us for that. Here is a picture of our body camera. We tried our best. Hopefully sometime this year we can do kind of a demonstration, not a live one, but one that has our in-car cameras and how it switches over to the body cameras. But that's what it looks like. Our drone, I tried to put the arrow there because it can get lost, and I can't do a lot even with computers, but I got that arrow in there. Yeah, so the drone will help. It'll they do the crash data for us, and it's been really helpful. It'll do searches too.
So I guess while we're talking about the drones, for the, like Sandy said, for the accident investigations, usually the drones will come out to recreate an accident that is pretty serious. So back in the day when I was on the team, we would have the total station that was basically a surveyor. You'd have the computer that would stand at one station, you'd have the dummy stick, and I was the one that always had to hold the dummy stick. And they would do measurements and all that. That, a simple scene would take, an hour and a half to 2 hours to shoot that with the surveyor's tools. We can shoot a scene with the drone, that same scene, in about 15 minutes, get photography from it, and what we do is now we recreate not only the scene, but we can recreate the action due to skid marks and everything. So when it goes to court, they have a finished product that the state's attorney is able to utilize to use as a visual aid, because those are the best things we have when it comes to accidents, aside from witness statements and testimonies. So as far as the drone goes, the majority of the use is for our traffic crash. Now, I know we utilize it for, when we're at the fair, for, monitoring scenes or monitoring, areas. We have utilized it for criminal investigations and surveillance, but that is a one or two off. We aren't in a geography where it's easy to use those as it is to put vehicles around. But if there are some areas where we need to put it up. I know we had some surveillance on a pretty heavy duty drug deal that was going on in Harvard that we were challenged on where we could put our assets, so we did utilize it for that. But these are tools that are becoming more and more common in our industry. They're also becoming more and more scrutinized in our industry as well. So we are making sure that not only are all of our pilots, so you have to have certain licensing that we go through the FAA for all of our drone instructors, or not instructors, all our drone pilots. On top of that, we are constantly looking at law to assure that law is not being used overboard, because like I said, we understand that this is a tool, it's a very valuable tool, but the majority of our stuff does come down to the accident investigation when we use these.
How many do we have?
So we have one of our new drones. We have an older model drone, and then we have a spare little guy drone. This is the only one that we really use. The other ones only go up if we train and we need to bring some other units up. They are super expensive. Batteries are the majority of the issues that come up with it. So our old drone, our batteries, we really were like patchworking it together. But this guy is our newer one that we had, 2 years now?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Cost? You said very expensive. Give me an idea, just so we know. I mean,
Just 20.
Yeah, and then the batteries are.
Yeah.
very expensive.
And how frequent do you have to replace the battery?
So the batteries the batteries are getting better. So the old ones, they would have trickle charge and not full charge, run them all the way down. Those were like 5 years, I think.
Yeah.
And then they just became obsolete. So and we haven't had to go through new batteries yet on this, and we're 2 years into it. So and we have a bank
station.
of batteries, that we have to go through to know that.
Yes, Carol?
Are they rechargeable? I mean, like.
Yeah,
okay,
yes, yeah.
so- and but at some
They're
point
trickle
they
charge
just die.
batteries,
Okay,
yeah.
at some point
Yep,
they
and
just
every
die.
scene, so we have, like I said, we have a bank of batteries that go out. Should we run into an instance where we need to swap them out? And what's nice about it is when they hit that certain point of battery life, if they're at the one end of the scene and they know that that battery is only so much to get back, they automatically fly back to home and they'll drop so they don't just fall out of the sky and crash.
Smart little
Neat,
suckers.
right?
And any other questions on the drones? Otherwise, Ms. Salgado?
Thank you. Here's just measuring at the scene of an accident. Our motorcycles are a big hit when we have our open houses or out doing community events, but we do have 2 folks in the summer are pretty active out there patrolling.
And above and beyond, so that's Deputy Novak. He is probably one of the top 5 riders in the country.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we're going to start doing more and more of is, rewarding our officers for things that they do well, that they can showcase. So he will be going down to Florida, I think, as far as they call it a rodeo, basically a challenge for bikes. Officer Wolf, who is on conservation, these guys are 1 and 2 neck and neck in the U.S. I mean, they are legit, and one of the things I think is important is for not only we can showcase our employees' talents, but I think it's a huge recruitment tool. Because let's be honest, everyone wants to be on a bike, and we only have so many bikes that we can do it. But I think just to showcase how good this agency and what we do well is important.
Member Shorten?
So when you say top 5 riders, it's just based on skill?
Skill set, yeah. Skill, knowledge, and let's be honest, how much they're willing to push not only themselves with the bikes. I mean, the rodeos that you see, it's not like they're doing 200 miles an hour.
Right.
They're literally, how long can you stand on that bike without putting your feet down? And these guys they're just unbelievable. And some of the cornering and the ability of maneuvering that's a heavy machine. And the way they can maneuver that thing and make it look like it's on a little tricycle, that it's a true skill that these guys have. So, and it's not all for show. So when the deputies are out on their bikes, they're out running traffic and they're out handling calls. They're outfitted with computers, printers, so they can do everything in a squad that on that bike as well. So it's not like it's just for a show. They are handling calls and doing everything out there as well as our guys in the cars.
Okay, here's our truck enforcement team, working with the state police. This is our outdoor range that we practice at. So as you know, part of the training facility is also building an indoor firing range. We are going to maintain the outdoor range, and we're working with planning and development right now to put 2 more berms out there so that we can continue to practice in the weather, because obviously not everything takes place. Yes?
Where is the outdoor range?
Right next to DOT.
Oh, that's right.
Yep, so there's the little pond, and then they're over there.
Fun fact, on the other side of the berm is where they drop all the dead animals. So in the summer when it gets really hot out and you're out of the range, it's lovely out there.
Sure is a fun fact, Chef. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Here's some more pictures from our SWAT team.
And actually, if you go back, so this training was done at D5. You can see the black rubber walls. D5 built an indoor shoot house that you can utilize live ammunition with. So that's actually really important when you think about it. You can train so much as long as, and if the officers knows they have ammunition rounds in their guns, they know they can have a misfire. Not that they do, but there's no concern that if they pull the trigger that someone can badly get hurt. When you go to shoot houses where you have live ammunition, you add that additional factor into it, which, I'm 100% confident we can put people in that room. But that's just something else that we utilize as far as training goes, that when they pull the trigger, there is an actual round coming out of that gun. So they better be 100% positive where they're pointing that gun and pulling the trigger, that it's in a safe direction and no one else on the other side ends up getting hurt. So we're fortunate to have that, that ability to utilize that kind of training.
Excuse me, Member Shorten had a question.
Just a quick question.
Yep.
Once the new range is built in Cary, are you going to continue to use the shoot house at D5?
So our indoor range will have 3 of the 4 walls. I'm not good at math. 3 of the 4 walls will have, I don't want to say armor, but it'll be protected so you can shoot, 180 degrees. So we can set up scenarios where you can almost make a shoot house.
Yeah.
But we will still utilize that because what we end up doing is we get stagnant in our training and everything looks the same. So, I mean, there is a cost that goes along to that we budget for, so we don't go there often, but
Sure.
we'll still utilize that just to keep people fresh and keep things going. SWAT team is the one that usually trains at that shoot house. So
Yeah, it's a nice facility.
it's a beautiful facility.
Here is in our corrections area, this is the telephone system that we use, IC Solutions. This is one of the not booking holding rooms, the court holding rooms where they sit before they go to court, and then a correctional officer brings them up to the courtroom upstairs by the judges. Our evidence tech.
Now, Sergeant.
Now sergeants, yes. These are always fun. So as you guys know, we do have seizures that take place, and they take pictures, and we like to show them to you. Oh, there's Jeff. So this one is money. There's drugs, weapons, all kinds of things. In fact, we're going to be going down to Georgia.
I was just talking about that. Yeah.
You can say that on live TV.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to be seizing an RV. So we're going to be going down and picking up an RV. It's not ours. So maybe in one of the law and government committees, we can go through and talk about the process of what happens with our forfeiture funds, because
Yes.
every now and then that comes up. We have 3 different accounts. There's different rules and regulations for those, and that's always good for you guys to know.
They changed it.
Aw, Jet. Which one is this one? That's Cosman's, right?
It's Deuce.
These are our explorers. They help out at the fair. They help out at the open house. Very valuable to us.
Fun fact, the taller guy in the middle is at the academy right now. We actually swore him in at the beginning of this year. So it's
Great.
cool to see our explorers kind of come full circle and actually join the force. So Colin's doing well at the academy, and it's nice to see that our internal recruitment is working as well.
Yeah. Here's at the fair, Shop with a Cop that we do every year. Records department, Michelle, she does our FOIAs. I should have her come and talk to you too once about the FOIAs and the process that we go through, especially now with the evidence.com, the Axon cameras
Yep.
that we have. We're still kind of navigating through using that software, because now that we have the video, we have to go through and make sure that we're blurring and watching the audio on that. Another presentation at a school, another Shop with a Cop, police social worker program. Here they are. They're doing great. You'll get a little update in Mr. Austin's quarterly county board report you'll get, I think, next Thursday.
Next Thursday, right?
There they are, our guys, and that's it. So now I thought we'd turn it over to the sheriff, and he can talk a little bit about some of the highlights and things we have. There's so much going on, a lot of exciting things, and then feel free to ask any questions.
There is a lot going on. I guess the 2 major highlights that we're looking at is obviously the training facility. That's, like Sandy had said.
Wait, the video. Sorry.
I'm not going to say it. I'm just going to say it.
I know, it's just a short video, but part of the Axon body camera project was getting new tasers. And so we had to run everyone through taser training. And I wanted them to come here and actually do a live version for you, but
No.
yeah, it's the best way to experience. So we have a short clip, and I apologize for that.
So each taser has 2 prongs. If you actually pause it for a second, you can see the 2 cords that go in. And then what happens is with the taser, and forgive me if you guys already know this, the electricity goes between the two prongs of the taser. So if you're really close to a subject, I'm gonna use your arm, and those two prongs go here, the electricity just goes between the arms. So there's a rhyme and reason to how far out you wanna be to allow those two prongs to cover a larger area. And as you can see on the target that they have, green area is obviously the area where you wanna, deploy. And I mean, even in the head can be viewed as a deadly force. Now, just because you have a taser and that's what you have in your hand or presented with a deadly force threat, you can use that taser even though it's a less than lethal, it's not a deadly force weapon. You can utilize it as a deadly force weapon if you need to. We saw that not with the taser, but with the beanbag round that was utilized way back in the day on Wonder Lake when an individual presented himself with a knife and started approaching one of our deputies as a deadly force threat. He had a less than lethal, he had the beanbag round weapon, and he ended up using lethal force on that individual. So I only say that because I'm transparent about what we do. At the end of the day, and I said it before, our business can turn into an ugly business, but we train appropriately, and that's why, it's not just a one-off. We understand what scenario-based training is, and I'll let you put. I think it was just, he was just showing how we.
And you run it one more time, it's really short, it's 9 seconds. It's just not the same when you're not there. So maybe when we do our tour, we can have that set up so you can.
Yeah.
So the other mark, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, please,
The other mark was down by the knee, was it down the is it the?
So you can see where
Or by the thigh?
there's the green dot
Right.
is actually where the aim would be,
Mhm.
and I think the red one would be where the other prong may go,
Okay.
Yeah, there's a.
where the split is.
Right. Oh, there it is. I
Yeah, you
see it.
see,
Okay, yeah.
and you can actually make fun of Eric because it looks like that middle prong went in between the leg, or that lower prong went in between the legs, which would have rendered that shot invalid. So, which is actually, if we want to talk about it, the taser went under a lot of scrutiny under the Safety Act, where you could shoot this individual. This is a static target, not moving, super easy, and by the Safety Act, you're only allowed to deploy it in this area.
It's like
which
6 inches, right?
This is not moving, and he wasn't able to do it, and we're able to do it more, and this was more just for, visual.
Demonstration, yeah.
Right. But when we go out and train, we have to hit certain areas. Again, in an environment where your stress is very low, on a target that's not moving, I think these are good trainings just to kind of rationalize, and maybe, Sandy, when we do a walkthrough, we can demonstrate some stuff, and I think it'd kind of fun for, to put some of those that aren't used to our type of training where we can elevate stress a little bit and show how quickly things can come unraveled, all in an environment that we are just creating that at the end of the day, you're gonna be able to walk and leave. So, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah. First, Board Member Wegner and then Mr. Short.
So when I took some high schoolers on a tour of the jail, the corrections officers were telling us that they have to be shot by some of the
Munitions.
yes, the like paintballs, but they're not
Mhm.
paintballs.
Yep, the
Do
pepper
you-
ball gun and all that.
Yes, so have you been shot by a taser, and is that something that the police officers, or the sheriff's officers have to?
So there is an option too. I'm not dumb. I didn't go through that. And my defense is like, I carry a gun. I didn't get shot with a gun to figure out how that felt. I mean, I understand that. And that's each officer's preference. Officers usually take, people up on it. I was in a rank position, so I knew that they would have been nice to me, so I kind of walked away for a little bit.
But some of them do.
But some of them do, yeah. Oh yeah, we have plenty of videos of officers that have gone through that type of training, and they do the same type of training down at the academy as well. So I could be more than happy to show you the videos of pepper spray when I was sprayed, because honestly, that's like the worst, because that never goes away. But yeah, officers do get to experience what the effect of whatever tool that they're using would cause.
Mr. Short.
So you said with the Safety Act that the target area is defined is here,
Yeah, torso.
whereas before it was.
There was, I mean, you knew where deadly force was, anywhere, like, basically the head, and they're trying to keep it out of the groin. Now, they have the original Safety Act said that back was off limits. They have modified that, and so the third one got a little bit better. Each time it seems to get a little bit better, because the understanding of, the nature of the taser and what's being utilized is, explained a little bit better. So
Right.
people that, were working on putting that bill together, their understanding of that tool is getting better, I guess. I would say.
Okay. So if he's targeting the defined area,
Torso.
and like we said, the red dot is down by the knee, and that's obviously kind of a gamble.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's, so when we do it, you aren't specifically targeting, the groin or the head area. I mean, that, you're not.
Right.
And the way he's got it canted, you can turn your hand a little bit to create that angle where it's, top left chest to lower right chest or whatever. And that's actually a pretty far shot.
Yeah.
That's probably 15 feet. I know it doesn't look like it by the angle, but that's a decently far shot. I will say that the majority, well, I probably shouldn't say majority. A lot of the deployments are drive stun, which aren't pronged. So there's a way that you can flip the switch, and the arc is just on the taser itself, where you actually place the taser on. It's a contact tase for compliance.
Yeah. 'Cause I was looking at that in that scenario, which I know it's a training exercise, but
Sure.
if he fires and misses with one of the contacts, and he's trying to use it less than lethal in a situation, and he misses, and I imagine do they have extra
There's extra cartridges,
cartridges?
and there's dual cartridges that we have on those tasers, so if the first ones don't go, they have another cartridge right there readily available. I will say that we were just involved in an incident up in Harvard on an individual that was non-compliant, that was tased twice, and the tasers did not work. They ended up having to go hands-on. One of our officers got hurt in the midst of it, but after they were able to apprehend the subject, the pouch that he was going for had a weapon in it, and he had just returned from DOC. So this is real life stuff that, these tools are great. They don't always work, depending on the individual, endless amount of possibilities. So like I said, it's nice to know that you have it. We just don't always rely on it, because real world says that Murphy's Law, right?
Right.
If it should work, it's not gonna work, and we have to go to something
Yes.
else.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for letting me interrupt you, Sheriff, in this video.
Yeah. So I guess the segue into that is the training facility. Like Sandy said, they tentatively approved the drawings or our building permit. We should have that by the end of the week, and hopefully we can start actually framing and putting that training facility together. It's kind of cool to see now that they've opened the whole first floor up, and the idea is to have a 100-person classroom, a defensive tactics mat room on the first floor, and then a 40-person classroom downstairs. And then we've invited EMA to have an office there as a secondary command unit. So they partnered up. We're working on an intergovernmental agreement with, right now, Algonquin, McHenry, Lakeland Hills, Cary, and us are working together to create a regional training facility. My vision is long-term to make sure that when all law enforcement officers from the county show up to a call, because we show up to a call together, we all have common training. So when we look at each other, I see the face nods. That's what we're looking for too. When you walk up to the scene, you feel comfortable that we know what we're doing every single time we're doing it. So how we're going to do that remains to be seen. We're working through that, but reality is we're going to share resources. We want that facility to be open 24/7, 365. Our officers need to be well-trained to be able to provide the service that this community holds us to, which is pretty high, but I think all the chiefs know that and are willing to do that. So the training facility, I'm pumped. I'm just super excited about, because we've been talking about it for 6 years. We're going to see it come to fruition this year, and we're really going to get that up and running. And I think it's just going to take this county's law enforcement to the next level.
So probably in April, we will be bringing that intergovernmental agreement forward. Along with that is going to be the municipalities that the sheriff mentioned. They're kind of the training board, Okay, so there's gonna be membership fees and everything that goes with that, that is gonna show you how we're going to maintain the building moving forward. So that board is charged with coming up with all of that, you know, what the fees are gonna be, what the partners, or if a municipality that maybe isn't on board or part of it at the beginning, if they wanna use it, what does that look like, how does it feel? So hopefully we're gonna be able to bring that all before you here in April.
Mr. Shorten, I'm sorry.
So you
And then
named off a,
Carolyn.
sure.
I said, and then Carolyn, you
Okay.
first.
You named off a number of municipalities that have already kind of joined in. What's the resistance from others?
So Crystal Lake has a range in their facility right now. Some other factors went involved with that. And Huntley, it sounds like, are building a range with the Amazon money that had come in. But that doesn't mean that they're not gonna be part of the training facility. I think this was, from the get-go, these agencies were involved heavily from the start. So we were working to make sure that this IGA was clean, that we all could agree upon between the 5 of us first. And then there's gonna be a last call for anyone that wants to jump on. I'm confident that other agencies will be more than happy to jump on once they actually see, now there's something tangible that they can see. Before it was kind of like, well, we're looking for answers, and it was difficult because there were a lot of factors that came into, hypothetical scenarios where we'd have something. Now we actually have some numbers to fall back on. People actually can see a building, they can see a floor plan, they can get an understanding. There's a range that's going to be built that's going to be involved with it as well. Now that we have something, I would be surprised if it was just us 5 that were involved with this facility. And then, like I mentioned, the firing range, it sounds like they're talking about breaking ground end of April.
Yes.
Was their idea,
We're working on the permit right now for that, so.
So that's super exciting as well. It just gives us another opportunity to train, 24/7, 365. I'm sure you've heard me talk about officer wellness. There's nothing worse than sending a midnight officer to a day shift training and really screwing up with their sleep pattern and all that. And I'm, pardon my French, but I'm hell-bent on making sure that those officers are training on the shift that they are and they're taken care of. And I think if we have healthy officers that are well-trained and physically fit, that we have a good group of individuals that will keep providing the service, like I keep going back to, that, everyone in this room expects us to do. And all of us law enforcement leaders are on board with that. We just have to figure out a way how we can make that actually work with a lot of agencies throughout the county and just make it work. So I'm excited because it's something new, and it's something that I know that Sheriff Prim was upset that he didn't get to see to come fruition, because I know he put a lot of time and effort into it. So part of me wants to say that I was able to do it and he wasn't, but the other part is, the reality is that he put us on that path to get us here. So I know that I want for him, while he's still around, to actually see that come to fruition as well, because let's be honest, a lot of this wouldn't have happened unless he wasn't, pushing that along. And then realistically, I don't know how many years down the road, but you've heard us talk about the issues of recruitment and getting law enforcement officers into each of our own respective agencies. The other part is finding an academy to send them to. So I think there's a path to success if we do this right, years down the road, that we can create a space where we can host an academy, not just for law enforcement patrol side, but law enforcement on the correction side as well. And I think that's another opportunity that this community would benefit greatly from, that we could say that we did it all on our own and used our resources to do it, and not ask for, other areas to help us out. That's something that we can do too. So that's further on down the road, but that's one of the visions that we have. That actually, I'll segue, we're looking at using partners with MCC on the educational arm. So recently we worked with MCC on creating a internship program. It's a paid internship program. One of the needs that we found is that we have a front desk officer, and we've been utilizing individuals that are on light duty for that position, but we always can't rely on someone that's on light duty, and we found that there are times where we're asking other people to fill those roles and pulling people from other places. So we're creating a internship program for a civilian to sit at that front desk and be the face of our agency while they're earning their criminal justice credit at MCC. So that's hopefully gonna come here shortly.
Yeah, thank God HR had some temp positions to loan us. It's we're starting off as a pilot program. There's a grant that MCC can offer that pays 65% of the pay rate up to 280 hours. We're looking to do it longer than a semester. We need about a year per student because of all we're investing in them. We're going to train them. Really excited about it. They have to be part of the MCC internship program, so they're already vetted through MCC. The chief over there is working with us too and is going to help us interview. So we're excited.
Part-time.
It's part-time.
Two part-time
It's up to
positions.
6
benefits.
Under $1,000.
No benefits.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the realistic thought on that is that we'll have, each intern would be there 2 days, 16 hours a week, to cover, 4 out of the 5 days, and then we also are going to utilize our, one of our admin specialists from our Intel and Narcotics unit to fill that other day, and then offset some other times. But I'm stoked because this is another recruitment tool that we are going to utilize to bring an individual, not just, I will be selfish on our agency, but they'll get exposure to all of law enforcement in hopes that, we are just creating our own employees.
And I don't want to be rude and stop you, but it's 10 to 2, just to give
Nope.
you.
Kick us out.
No.
'Cause I'll talk here all day.
No, I know you will, which is why I'm interrupting. Two questions.
Yes, ma'am.
Number one, talk a little bit about challenges with recruitment and what's going on, and I appreciate the fact that you're, being creative and finding ways. And then give us like your top 3 goals for this kind of fiscal year and what you're doing in that regard. And then we will invite you back and we'll schedule a tour and we'll have more opportunity.
Sure.
But we've been through this
No,
before,
sorry.
and I don't want, I don't want to.
Look at the faces like
And you know
Office
what, even more
stage.
importantly, I have a very big legislative agenda and I want to have talk, so,
Sorry. All right, so recruitment. The reality is since Ferguson took place in, I think it was like 2008, 2009, we've seen a decrease in interest in the law enforcement field. Now think about, that was 14 and 15 years ago. Individuals that are 8 years old saw that, and over the past 15 years have been, under the, for right or wrong, between media and social media, that law enforcement is bad. So we are seeing a gap in the market of individuals that are coming out, for our workforce market. It's been difficult. We've announced our test for April. We're testing April 29th, I think, is for a new hire for patrol. I think our numbers, I'll be happy if we have 100 people show up.
We've also had issues though with them passing some of the testing.
Well, that's I want 100 to show up
has
because,
that changed, the testing? Is it harder?
oh, it's gotten easier, which is, we can talk about that one too.
Yeah, okay.
So,
Later.
when
Another meeting.
Later, another
Yeah.
meeting, come back and we'll talk about that. Peter's taking
2004,
copious notes too, so.
2004 when I applied, or actually 2003 when I applied, about 300 people would show up. We're lucky if we get 100 even sign up, 60 show up, 30 pass the test, and of that 30, we'll interview all of them, we'll find to be 10 will be viable. And of that 10, they are the same 10 people that are on every single list throughout the state of Illinois. So we're just fighting each other for it.
Mr.
Can I ask a
Sherman?
very quick question?
Of course.
The challenges with the testing, is it the written part or is it the physical part?
Yes,
Both.
Both? Okay.
unfortunately. And the more unfortunate part for me is that the written, the physical test we give you the answers to. I mean, you know what you have to do to pass the test. And people that don't pass that, I lose my mind over, because one, I think it's super easy, but two, in a time where law enforcement is so scrutinized about the highest standard, we keep lowering the standard of how to even get in, which creates an issue for leaders like myself to have candidates and say no to them, because we know that down the road something bad's going to happen. The written test is like an entry college level test, and so we require a high school. So that's a whole separate issue too. But those are the other challenges that we have to deal with once an individual passes both. That's why we have an interview afterwards, because you may be able to pass both, and you bring them in an interview room, and it's like, holy smokes, I don't want you anywhere near law enforcement. So that's why we take that process seriously. So for me, how can we get in front of our youth so that they become excited about law enforcement? You know, be present in the elementary schools, in the middle schools, in the high schools. We just signed up South Elementary through Crystal Lake. Their third grade class is going to come to the sheriff's office and take a tour. I'm encouraging everyone to do it. I've talked over at McHenry West Campus because they're very proactive about futures and people doing stuff. I am going to utilize my role to be everywhere and anywhere and get in front of kids and get in front of people. I'm fortunate that I still have kids in school and both of their classes all know me, and I will just utilize that to law enforcement's advantage. My goal is to have one graduate from every high school come back to this county, whether they go to military or college, come back and serve in some kind of first responder role. I don't care where or what agency, but if we could get one graduate from every high school class, we will be self-sustainable, and that makes us like one of the most successful counties in the state. So you talk about goals, that's one of the goals that I think, you know, what we're trying, at least for me, where my vision is. Sandy showed pictures of the chiefs. Those guys and the undersheriff can run our agency. It's my job to figure out how we can make our community sustainable.
Okay, well, you get two more.
more.
One question. You get two more.
I get
goals.
two more.
You've done one. But wait, Kelly's got a
I
question.
just wanted to suggest, are you guys on school links with District 47 and 150, or District 155? I know the county is. I would suggest the sheriff, go to District 155 website and look up school links.
Okay.
It is the portal to connect the high schools, at least 155,
Okay.
with companies and industries.
Okay.
And,
Anybody who has a tech program has that same link on their website.
Okay.
So McHenry should have one, Crystal Lake should have
And
one.
we might, special services might already do that, so
Perfect.
shame on me for not knowing that, but I will definitely look into that. That's a great idea, I like it.
All right, you have 4 minutes.
2 goals.
So, 2 goals. I'm trying to think, we do so much stuff, I'm trying to think what the other goals are before I get way ahead of myself. Oh, so, the Marine units. So, we just met with McHenry City. It sounds like the Marine unit that we've been talking about for 2 years, that's gonna, we have some high hopes that midsummer that we are gonna have that thing up and running. And that's,
Yep.
what's the
Miller
name of that?
Park?
Yeah, Miller Park, right by the bridge on
Yep, Charles Miller.
Charles Miller Road.
Right by the old sanitary.
Right.
Yes.
Is that in conjunction with the Fox Waterway, or is that because
No.
the Fox Waterway doesn't have the ability to cover the entire river, so the county's stepping up?
Well, we've always had so we used to have them right by the.
That was a softball question for
Oh,
God's
sorry.
sakes.
You knew the answer.
I knew
Yeah,
the
sure,
answer.
yeah.
I'm on the board.
That's because McHenry County Sheriff's Office and the county is awesome. We help out with IDNR, and we are a leader on the river, and supporting all the local communities. I know that McHenry's gonna have a large increase of traffic with their expansion of the riverfront.
And they just dredged all along there, so
So
that's,
I know that
that's
there's
more
going to
boats,
be, and
right.
that's kind of why we wanted to work with McHenry, because I know that we will step up and we'll assist them with a lot of the increased traffic. And our Marine unit does an awesome job.
Yep.
They do a great job out there.
That's great to hear.
They're there right now, we're just renting a trailer that we work out of.
What else am I missing?
So we have our PSW program that
Okay.
we have new software that we're implementing so that we can work with county admin and
Social.
Yep.
social worker.
Yeah,
What did I say?
PSW.
Oh, please, social work.
I appreciate that. Everybody.
Oh, okay.
We know that, I'm gonna say, if we didn't know that after all Sandra has done on that, if we didn't know those 3 initials, shame on all of us.
But that is gonna be good because we can give you guys some metrics, when we get that up and running and to give back to the municipalities. So right now we have 19,
19,
19.
including us, yeah.
So that's really exciting. They're still at the McHenry Foundation.
Mhm.
The goal is to bring them over to the training facility in the next however long and have them centralized there and have access to the police officers for officer wellness and training as well.
Yeah.
Anybody have any questions? We're gonna invite you back again to talk about some of these specifically, because I took copious notes too. And we'll schedule a tour. Rob and I have talked a little bit about that.
Yep.
And we're gonna talk about what you really wanna see. So we're not there for 5 hours, because that's what happens, is we're there for 5 hours.
Yeah.
So, we'll talk about that. a little bit.
Short-term goal, I would encourage all of you to reach out and set up a ride-along with us, so actually you can see, and not just a ride-along, I mean, we'll do a tour, not just on patrol, but I think you guys would benefit a lot to see what goes on the other side of the walls, and be able to shadow someone from our correctional facility as well. And I'll be honest, it'd be great if you would want to see what goes on in the courtrooms with our court security officers, because I think we kind of get tunnel vision on everything we do on the road, and there really is so much more that happens in our organization that we do, so.
Why don't you make us do that first before we get to do the ride-along, because that's much more fun.
Sure, you got it.
Yeah, cool.
Great, thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you very, very much.
Taking up so much
Really appreciate it.
Well,
Mark,
was it great?
do you want to,
Enjoyable?
yeah.
Thank you for having me.
So next up, we actually have somebody from the, is it the Public Defenders?
Public Defender's
I
Office.
thought.
I have a 20-minute
All right,
movie, but
Mr. Cook.
after that, I'll hold off on it. It's a pleasure to be here.
Touch
Thanks.
the really important things that you don't think that we know.
Don't even need it. I'm leaving it. I made a slideshow, so I do know how to do it. But I don't think there's any need to go through it.
It's certainly up to you, but as long as we get a copy.
Is that from your drone?
We get the sheriff's old drone.
Yeah,
Down to it.
as long as we get a copy of the presentation.
Sure, I think it's been here since
Please.
January, so.
We probably have lost it since then.
I will
but-
make a copy, or else
Thank you.
hopefully you get one made, and then pass that out. The McHenry Public Defender's Office, or the Public Defender statute, is in the Illinois County's Code, and it sets out the duties of the public defender. And the duties of the public defender are to be, we're appointed to people that can't afford an attorney. It's very straightforward. I don't think it's going to be as entertaining as the sheriff's presentation. But it is entertaining in the sense that we get appointed to a wide variety of things, besides the standard criminal cases like felony, misdemeanor, or juvenile delinquency. We also have it within the Office of Juvenile Division that gets appointed to abuse, neglect cases. We may be appointed as a guardian to a minor. So there are different things, but mental health, people that are put into the hospital against their will, involuntary admission is what they refer to that to. Or if they want to medicate them while they're in the hospital, we'll get appointed to involuntary medication petitions. They're all on my slideshow, but this is actually more fun to do it this way. Then I don't have to try and figure out how to use it either. But the office currently in McHenry County consists of 12 attorneys, 1 investigator, and 3 support staff people. And I try and do what's called horizontal representation, where you have an attorney, or sometimes 2 attorneys, in a courtroom with 1 specific judge. And that way I find it to be more efficient because they're in front of the same judge. It streamlines things. They know, they get an idea what the judge is like. They know they work with their prosecutors in those specific courtrooms. The same in the juvenile division. There's currently 1 juvenile courtroom in McHenry County that hears both the delinquency and the abuse, neglect, and delinquency, or abuse, neglect, and dependency cases. As I said, there's 12 attorneys now. Currently, there is the 3 support staff, and once we get appointed to a case, we will treat it as any private attorney. We may go out to the scene, send our drone. We don't have a drone. We may go out and if we interview witnesses. Sometimes we have to transport witnesses. Of the people we get appointed to are indigent. And so it's not the general public that we represent. Sometimes we'll get calls from the general public that they have to be found by the court to be indigent. They do that, the defendant would fill out an affidavit in court, and the judge would either appoint us or not appoint us, an affidavit showing the assets and liabilities. So once we get a case, though, we're held under the attorney professional standards on representing the person. So our duty is to the client. So, with that being said, that is basically what we do. It's a variety of things that we get appointed to. We're in court most of all of the day. When the courtroom's going, we've got to be in there.
Okay, so questions about the actual process. Have you seen in McHenry County an increase for demands for public defenders, or have you seen a decrease? Has it stayed the same?
It usually stays relatively the same. We'll get little
Little
quirks.
bumps?
Yeah, when the pandemic hit, they weren't arresting as many people, so you'll see it drop. Now business is booming. We're going up above, we're hitting pre-pandemic levels, and it seems to be even going higher. But as I say, it's all dependent on the other courtrooms. We are more reactionary. We react to the drug fine that the dog would do. Now I'm using kind of a prop through association. So the dog would find something. We would work off of that, just isn't any case.
Are we giving you enough resources? Do you have enough resources
Yes,
in the
I
county?
think we do. You should be aware for the future that
Please.
there's currently a study going on, studying the legal defense, public defense in Illinois. I don't know if it's good to have the government do public defense or be in the business of it, unless it is for indigent people, which I think is the idea. But there's a big study going on. And you may be aware, Pete, of some legislation that is being passed to study or change the way public defenders act or how they operate. There seems to be a push for a statewide public defender organization. The appointment would be by the committee, the county board chairman, although I heard that was changed because of some outcry. It's all right in its infancy right now. The last I heard, the administrative office was doing a study, but then another group did a study saying that Illinois as a whole was not doing it the right way for public defense. They made recommendations for each county throughout the state of what the staffing should be and what the budget should be. Did you?
I recall that now that you're mentioning it, it was some months ago, I had some conversation with Chief Judge Cowan about the scenarios of that being floated. But I think it's probably worth noting, for our committee members, you're kind of unique in that you are a full-time public defender, right? For 102 counties, there's a lot of public defenders that aren't full-time county
Well,
employees.
it's set on population. If you're over a certain amount of population per county, then you would be a full-time public defender. The new legislation I saw changes that. It drops the population level to 35,000, I think. And if you have a population in your county of over 35,000, which means much more than that, you must have a public defender office. Public defenders appointed by the county board chairman. And the staffing was very similar to the state's attorney's office. They're looking for parity with the state's attorney's office.
Central and Southern Illinois, that's what they're really focused on.
I think they're ready. You have
It
a
is.
problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, you may have a problem down there, but not so much with us, the collar counties.
Right, that,
But I don't know
collar
if they're
counties are
taking-
the ones around them, Kendall, et cetera, but everything Central and Southern Illinois.
I don't know if they take that into account though, because
No, I'm sure it's across the state, I'm just saying the focus though, I think the impetus is definitely in those counties that have total populations of 18,000, which is the size of one of our cities.
Right.
And so there's not necessarily the same level of service
Right.
that those indigent people are getting. So
Right,
I
those
think
are the
that
ones I
that's.
think you mentioned, Peter, they don't even have a public defender office.
In 1997, I started in Kendall County. Kendall County's 120,000 people now, but there was 57,000 people, and they did not have a full-time public
Right.
defender in 25 years ago when I was a kid.
They do now, though.
I know they did.
And he works for me.
But it's gonna be the same thing.
Yes, staffing though, quick, and
Yeah.
Mark's referenced 12 attorneys several times now. We had some pressure there for a few years to get you the last attorney. You did add an attorney in December.
Yes.
Kind of in preparation, in response for some of the elements of the Safety Act. When that got, the pretrial fairness component got stalled, I quick called Mark and said, hey, did you hire that person? He said, yeah, he did.
Because we can use that person.
I think he was hired on December 2nd, but.
Actually, well, it's a long story.
Don't even go there, we don't even go there.
Yeah.
Ms. Wagner.
I just want to know, how many cases do each of your public defenders have? Like,
How
what's their
many
caseload?
that each one has? We get appointed to about roughly 4,500 people, and there's 12 of them, so I usually would just do the individual deduction on that. I don't have the number off the top of my head on each one, but that again we have to watch that to make sure that they're not overloaded. We do have awareness to each of the courtrooms. It's really, as I said, quite simple because I do it almost like a football coverage where you have a certain amount of attorneys that stay with a certain amount of judges. If a courtroom it's to a certain point where they aren't able to do it. I mean, when we're appointed to represent anybody, no matter what the judge, the office represents, it is fungible amongst all of us. I may appear, or you may have someone else who may not be normally in that courtroom that will appear to make sure that they're not overloaded, overlooked. The gauge has always been the amount of lawsuits or reversals that you get. There are lawsuits from disgruntled clients that are in prison. In the 30-something years I've been doing it, I think we've had 2. One, because we got the case dismissed. But, like I say, I was trying to say with the new information or the studies that I've seen, they call for a massive doubling of our staff on some of them, which it will still be the county's responsibility to pay. It's not coming from the state. There is a switch over there. My salary got paid by the state. I saw that bill actually went in already. But, so that's something on the horizon that you want to keep an eye on.
A great segue for the legislative agenda, because we don't like unfunded mandates, so.
That's right.
We can say that right
That's-
now,
I think
right?
that's what I was saying,
We
but-
already have that. Are there any other questions? We again, we might invite you back.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah.
That'd be perfect. Thanks for having me today.
No, thank you
All right.
very, very much.
Thanks.
Kathy?
Probably the biggest question we get about Mark's office though is, can he represent them like on a traffic ticket? And so it has to be a jailable offense.
It has to be a
correct?
jailable offense. I thought it was gonna be
Yeah.
about my drone.
No. Yeah, they have a traffic ticket, they want the public defender, or they're in divorce court and can't they get the public defender, but it has to be a jailable offense.
Again, it's always educating the public. So Kathy is our circuit clerk and runs the circuit court, so please, you're on tap.
Thank you for having us today. So McHenry County is the 22nd judicial circuit. In Illinois, there's 24 judicial circuits plus Cook County. So McHenry County is one of, I think it's only 7 single county circuits. So most of the circuits include, especially when you get in the south, include many, many counties. So there are 102 circuit clerks. There's a circuit clerk for every county. But so chief judges, there's only, I guess, 25 chief judges because there's only 25 judicial circuits. Back in the day, we used to be part of the 19th judicial circuit with Lake County. And then population-wise, they, spun us off into our own circuit quite a number of
They
years
didn't want us
ago.
anymore, and we said, that's
They
great.
did not, they did
We
not
said,
want
"That's
us
great,
anymore,
we'll
and we didn't really want them either, so.
That's right, that's absolutely
So
correct.
it worked out okay. So the statutory duties of the clerk are basically to attend all sessions of court, we're the keeper of the record, we're the keeper of the seal of the court, we issue summons, and we keep the files of the court. We have 54 employees in the circuit clerk's office, or 54 FTEs, I guess is where we're at. They are mainly represented by AFSCME. We did just, and you may have heard that, we did just sign our new contract with AFSCME in December, which was really great for us because we really needed to increase our starting rate. So we went from a rate of $16.57 for our basic entry-level clerks, and now we're at $19.50. So we've really, we've gone from where we were seeing nothing in applications to we got 60 applications for, which for us was amazing. So we've hired a few, we were kind of trying to spread it out a little bit. We hired a few positions end of January, and then HR just posted for us again, so we're getting ready to hire a few more to try to fill up those positions. But
We had about 6 vacancies in the fall.
I think we were at 6. We ended up hiring 2 part-timers, so it's kind of hard to figure exactly. And the 2 part-timers, it has worked out okay, because they work mornings, and morning is our heavy court time. So we're able to use them to fill seats in the courtroom. So I think the part-time worked out all right. We may not go to the full 54 FTE. I think for starters, we may, go to 53, kind of see how it goes. We've been operating, below our numbers for quite some time. So, I think we might be able to do it without, completely going. Maybe a year or so from now, we might might be able to drop one of our positions. But we have, over the years, dropped a lot of positions. We did used to have 75 FTEs, was where we were, I guess as recent as maybe 2010. So we have had very significant reduction in staff, and mainly it all has been electronic, as we've automated things. Some of it is how we've, changed our processes, but mainly a lot of it has been technology.
Have you been able to do that through attrition more?
Yes, it's all been all attrition.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
so as we've gone along and things have changed, kind of like I said, now we might be looking at, dropping another position, but it's something that we do over time, kind of see how it goes. Typically, we always have a few openings here and there, so it's all been through attrition. But technology, maybe electronic citations, we've been doing those longer than most, every county in the state. The biggest thing is, they're doing them right in the squad cars. All that data from the ticket comes right into our case management system. Also goes into the police department's records management system. Nobody's doing data entry. Even in recent years, the PDF from the ticket also comes directly into our system. So nobody's scanning those tickets to get them into our records management system, so it saves tons of time. The same thing with electronic filing, which was mandated by the Supreme Court for civil cases not too many years ago. We've been scanning since 1990, so we have a huge database of scanned documents. But really the way to do it is with the electronic filing, so nobody has to sit down and scan those documents in. And that's what's really saved us a lot of time in recent years, the electronic filing, which is one thing that allowed us to, with the low staff that we've had in recent years, as the electronic filing has increased, it allows us to do a lot more with a lot less. Doing some things also with electronic orders, that's kind of a newer thing that we're trying to get into the courtrooms. We have the judges doing a lot of, they'll take proposed orders electronically, which is great because then they're signing those orders electronically. We're dumping those right into our case management system and to our records management system. Nobody's having to scan it. A lot less data entry, so it saves a lot of time. But generally, all the different technology things are what are allowing us to do more with less. E-access is another big thing. In recent years, we've allowed people to look up their own cases online. The Supreme Court still does not allow us to put the documents online, like right out there on the internet. We have recently allowed attorneys to see their own case files, the actual documents, which saves us a ton of time with attorneys. Reduces the calls we get from them, and then the public can at least see information about their case online, so they can look up their own case, their own court dates and times and that sort of thing. So it saves us a lot of time with phone calls and so it does save us some customer service time for sure. But probably the biggest thing our office does is customer service, whether it's at our counters or answering the phone. We get 200-300 phone calls a day, even though we do try to direct them to our website. Some people just don't want to get all their information off of the website. So no matter how much we try to put on the website, there are still those people who want to call. We've got our 2 customer service counters. We file about 500,000 documents a year, or about 40 to 50,000 cases a year. So our customer service counter on the 3rd floor, the one pictured below, that's the one you've heard about, our construction project. So that's the one that's been kind of torn up. You see the picture on the top is our traffic office, which is all glass enclosed. It was great during COVID. That was the only office that that remained open because of the glass enclosures, and just worked out well. The 3rd floor office is where we handle some other customer service, but most of it's order protections. And unfortunately, that's like our one growing business in recent years. That we haven't seen a lot of increases in a lot of case types, but orders of protection, for whatever reason, seem to increase every year. So we do handle the orders of protection at that counter. So just looking, it's going to be a much better customer service area. open to the hall like the one on the first floor is, which makes it more obvious on the third floor where the
More
customer
privacy
service
and,
is.
yeah.
Yes, and then with, we also don't have an ADA compliant counter up there either, so one of those will be at a lower level. And then still having the public viewing rooms up there, and then adding some additional meeting room space for Turning Point. And that is, one of the big things, they've got a couple of small rooms that we've given them off the hall, and there's no privacy. They wait out in the hall. So this new layout will give them a little waiting room and a couple of additional meeting rooms. Turning Point is a huge help to us just because per the statute, there's not very many things because the circuit clerk is prohibited from giving legal advice, but specifically in the statute, orders of protection, the circuit clerk is required to assist with orders of protection. So even if it comes down to actually having to sit and type it out for them, because we do them all electronically, so they input these, they sit in our viewing rooms and enter those in. So if Turning Point wasn't there assisting us, it would be our staff out there, really by statute required to assist with the orders of protection. And they definitely have a lot more knowledge than we do and are, a great help to those who are, coming to get orders of protection, so.
I'd be real curious at a later date to have a more in-depth presentation about how that intake process goes, what the partnership is with Turning Point, and then the increase that you've seen, even if it's only over the last 18 months or something, to see, just so that we're a little bit more in tune with what's going on there.
Yeah, I'm sure
So maybe if we
would
could
be
note
willing to
that
come,
in a bit.
to
Yeah, I
come
know
and,
that would. But again, I think for all of us, it would be something that we'd be interested in actually having more firsthand knowledge of. Mr. Shorten?
I'll dovetail on that because I was having the same thought, but I'd like to see, if possible, I don't want to, put you guys through a wild goose chase, but if there's, a growth in orders of protection, if you have the data easily available or easily generatable, I don't know if that's a word.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with it though.
It sounds good.
But kind of get a more of a long-term picture of how it's gone over the years and how that number's changed.
Yeah, sure, we could.
Yeah.
They did have a little bit of change in how we track the orders of protection just this last year. Used to be if you asked for an order of protection, you had a pending divorce case, the order of protection would filed into your divorce case, but the Supreme Court rules changed this last year, and now they make a separate order of protection case for every one of them. But we can convert the data, to how we used to keep it, and that wouldn't be difficult. Maybe once our new customer service area opens, if you want to come over for a little tour, we could kind of give you a little sense of Turning Point space and, kind of the work they do over there is fabulous. They assist in our courtroom that handles the orders of protection as well. So even the judges, the assistance that they give the judges in preparing the orders of protection that are even the plenary ones that are coming out of the courtrooms is just, it's immense. So we would probably need 2 or 3 more staff in my office alone if we didn't have the assistance that we get from Turning Point.
But it's also a nice partnership to feed them into that service level anyway, right?
Yes.
How does CASA work with you guys then?
They are
Not so much?
Yeah, not as much directly, since they're right directly in the courtrooms, so they definitely are assisting, directly out of the juvenile courtroom. And, a great assistance.
So they're dealing more with the actual, not with the circuit clerk and records, but with the actual process? Okay.
Yes. So they are definitely more directly in the courtroom about the only.
With the lawyers and the,
Actually dealing with the children themselves,
Yeah.
So I think, and then they report back to the judges, as far as what they've learned, from the kids in their situation. So we don't have a lot of contact, but I know they're great assistants in that juvenile courtroom.
yeah, but I see the distinction now that I asked the question. I apologize, I was dumb. Anybody else? Are you done? I apologize.
Pretty close.
I'm sorry.
I probably talked
I'm
about
sorry.
a lot of this. So we've got 18 courtrooms. Right now we have 18 judges, but they have posted for the 19th vacancy that we currently have, but we do have 18 courtrooms. Morning and afternoon calls. We've got bond court on Saturday and holidays. We finally eliminated all of our paper files in 2022. That was a very gradual process we worked on over the years to get to e-record. And so all of our case types now are on electronic record. We don't file any paper. The Supreme Court allows us, after even things that come in manually, which criminal stuff, that a lot of it does still come in on paper and we have to scan much of it. But they do allow us after 30 days, after you've done some quality checks, that once they're scanned, the documents can be destroyed. So we've got some projects that we're working on, trying to destroy all the older files that we currently have out at archives. We did a lot of that as filler work during COVID, worked on doing some verification projects so that we could destroy files to make sure that they were scanned accurately, and then use some of the ARPA funds to send some of the older files out for scanning. So at this point, I think we're even over that 6,500 boxes that we pulled out of archives and had destroyed. We're probably 7,000 to 7,500, but kind of a long-term project. We're looking to eventually not have any court files left out at archives, because we held a lot of space out there in the past, that's for sure. But our projects, we talked about our remodeling project. We are currently working on our website too. We have a lot of information on our website, but it's not super user-friendly. Looking to make it a little more mobile-friendly, since a lot of people are actually using it when they come into the courthouse, to access their case information. So we're using the same vendor that the sheriff used. Obviously, the sheriff's new website has the dogs and the boats and the drone and all of the exciting stuff. But we've asked the same vendor, to see if he could try to make the court look exciting. But
ADA, throw in your ADA stuff, throw in the privacy, it'll be perfect.
Right. So yes, it'll be better. It might not be quite as exciting as the sheriff's new website, but will be better. And we've also got an expungement fair we're going to do this fall. This will be the first one that we've tried. Some of the other collars have done it. We're working with Prairie State Legal and the McHenry County Bar Association.
Nice.
And so they're looking for some attorney volunteers. Just one day that people can sign up to come in and get some attorney assistance filling out all that expungement paperwork to try to get some, if they've got like some old. The expungement laws have changed a lot recently, and there's a lot more things you can get expunged if that's hanging on your record and keeping you from getting employment. So something that we're going to do that in conjunction with our Amnesty Week, which will be the second time we've had our interest amnesty week from collections. So probably September, I think, is our plan for that, for our projects. Quick on the funding for those who are newer. The circuit clerk's got 5 statutory funds. They all are result from fees, so court automation, court document. A lot of our personnel comes from the general fund, but all of our IT is our IT, and most of the rest of our office operations are funded from our different fee funds. Our circuit clerk operation and administration fee is one that we've used then to fund all of our construction projects. So that's literally what's funding our counter rework. But yeah, so those different statutory fees, which are fees that we're collecting and that are into different funds that can be used by the circuit clerk's office. So most of our funding does come from that, besides personnel. So there, I'm done.
Sorry. Are there any additional questions, Mr. Short?
Just to, and I know it's hypothetical because they're still going through the courts, but if the courts come back and reaffirm the Safety Act, what impact is that going to have on your office, not only functionally but financially?
Financially is a difficult one, because it really was kind of hard to pinpoint. We feel like there's going to be a lost revenue for sure, just because I think we had looked at probably, it was multiple millions that we actually apply in bond money for every year, and that money we just don't really see being replaced, by people actually paying instead of having their bond money applied once cash bail, if it would be eliminated. So that would be the biggest economic factor, is fee collection. I think would definitely drop. Mm-hmm. As far as operations, not really huge change for the circuit clerk's office. Most of that was more state's attorney, public defender, because of a lot of the different requirements, you know, that they had to, court service is also another big one that was hit with a lot of the changes in the Safety Act. But the circuit clerk's office, not so much, other than fee collection, I think would drop significantly, fine and fee collection off of felony cases.
Thank you.
I think you did a marvelous job. No
All right.
questions. That's
Well,
good.
again, we would invite you all over for a tour. You know, I'm sure that you know, if we could do a courthouse tour, it wouldn't be as exciting as the sheriff, but we'd be glad to show you around over there.
Thank you, Kathy. Really appreciate it. And then don't forget to remind us too, if we don't get a hold of you, to come back with some of that other information. So there is no real old business, so we'll go on and do reports, which is basically our legislative update. If you guys want to, and Shaylin, can you come and join us up at the
Absolutely.
table too,
Planning on it.
please? You know, we're kind of starting much of this from scratch, and Alicia and I have spent a great deal of time talking to each other, as I have with both Administrator Austin and County Board Chairman Bueller. And so it seems to me that we need to have some conversations about, you know, what our general legislative policy is. Like, you know, we don't like unfunded mandates. That's standard every year that goes forward. And then there are specific pieces of legislation that have been somewhat vetted and approved as we've gone through committee and county board conversations, like what passed out of committee today, yay, the quick take on Randall Road. That was a great success. We asked one of our legislative representatives to carry that legislation. We're following it through. Those are the kinds of things that we kind of know where we stand. And then there was also some conversation about just legislation that in general is of interest to the county board, whether it affects our operations, whether it affects some change to our operations. And I don't know necessarily how you want to deal with that. If that's broader conversations on a regular basis, or if that's just kind of a direction to staff. Things move rather rapidly now when bills are, you know, going from one chamber to the other, and then again at the end of session, and in between it's somewhat quiet, but at the end, it's really hard for us to take a position because, you know, it could be introduced and voted on the next day. We obviously meet once a month. So I wanted to have conversation about how you kind of saw our process moving forward. I've talked to both Kelly and Carolyn. They had some legislative ideas, and we talked about it behooves us to also follow some legislation that we're just interested in, right? And have reports and get updates on where they are and what happens there. But I think most of what I would suggest to make it cleaner and easier is we have our policies. They're pretty standard. We talk about that early on in the year before the General Assembly session starts. And then we have legislation that we kind of are initiating, we being the county board initiating, like the quick take and the county consolidation and repealing that, so we know that those are things that we have a position on. And then there's everything else that's kind of outside of our control and how you want to handle that. And I'm looking for a little bit more input and direction on that. You know, I know from the McHenry County Council of Government perspective, Shaylin's following and tracking and working directly with Alicia on that. I don't know how you want that reported, so I'm kind of looking for a little bit of input. But right now, what I think I want to do is maybe turn it over to the two of you, and can you talk about what's going on and what legislation is out there? And I did steal your thunder and did say the 2800 already passed out of committee. So we have to thank Representative Ness for that. She did a beautiful job. And then we can have a little bit broader conversation under your direction, under both of your directions, if you would, for me.
All right, well, with that being said, the General Assembly right now is in one of its, you know, busier phases, as Pam has said, because right now we have a deadline coming up on March 10th for substantive bills to get out of committee. So right now you have various committees that have mountains of legislation that they're looking at, reviewing, and trying to decide whether or not they will hear them or not, and whether or not they will get into, you know, the full committee floor or the full Senate or House floor to be able to be voted on and given that second reading. So, like Pam said, we were fortunate, our bill got through today, House Bill 2800. So, but there are others that are also of note for our purposes. One of them is House Bill 2781. This bill helps to expand the funding given to township bridges and for their repair. I'm sure you're all thinking right now, Lisa, we're not a township. What are you talking about? And the reason for that is our Division of Transportation does provide funding for the repair of township bridges. Yes, we were responsible for the allocation of that funding, but we also give some of our own funding to help keep them in repair and make sure that those bridges are, you know, safe for the traveling public and, you know, safe for, you know, our first responders to be able to get to people in a timely fashion.
And it really is an initiative, I think, really from IDOT, when they go out and they evaluate bridges. Most of the bridges in Illinois are in pretty poor shape. They're not gonna fall apart and, you know, no car is gonna go into the water, but they are structurally unsound and have not been cared for or maintained very well. And this has been an initiative for as long as I can possibly remember. So it's nice to know that they're actually talking about providing additional funds.
And I would like to note that one of our new legislators, Representative Sosnowski, recently signed on as a co-sponsor. You know, I took the liberty of sending a little thank you note saying, thank you, this is wonderful, this has been on our program for a while, thank you. So again, that's that bill. Another bill that I wanted to bring to your attention is House Bill 3731. This is a bill that was put forward by one of our former legislators, one who is no longer, you know, whose district no longer encompasses a portion of McHenry County. His name is Dan Agosti. He put a bill forward asking that the township dissolution bill that's specific only to McHenry County be spread to all the remaining township, all the remaining counties organized in the township fashion. So, again, I wanted to see where that bill was going. I have it being monitored right now in our tracking software, and for as far as I can tell, it hasn't left rules. So, you know, so I don't know where that's going from here, but I'll keep an eye on it going forward.
Alicia, that's not on here, right?
I'm sorry?
That's not on this
That is on that, it should be on there.
3731?
I might have gotten a little dyslexic, yes.
Okay.
But, yeah. Another thing to draw to your attention is the LGDF funding. Now, Shaylin, I'm gonna need you to tag team with me on this one. So, there have been multiple bills that have gone through, that have been filed by various legislators trying to increase LGDF funding for all sorts of local governments. Now, not all of them have made it out of the Rules Committee or out of assignments, you know, in either chamber. Now, 3 of them I've noted have, and one of them happens to be by our very own Senator DeWitt. So, the other 2 are put forward by Representative DeLuca in the House and Senator Murphy. Now, there are some key differences between these bills. The DeLuca and Murphy bills only raise the LGDF up a certain proportion. DeWitt's bill goes up to full 10% to restore everything. So again, just keeping an eye on those, and I think they are of substantial significance to counties as, well, we need our funding.
And just real quickly, the LGDF is the money, the income tax money that comes back to the local governments. And years ago, Pam, you probably know the history way better than I do.
So you want to talk
But
about
at one time, this was 10% was returned back to the local governments. It's been we're down at 6% now, 6.16%. So the goal is to get it back up to that 10% that it was in 2011, because those dollars are extremely important to local government budgets. So.
And you have to understand, state budgeting, the largest chunk of money that comes across is obviously the LGDF fund. And so there's always a desire by the administration and many members in the General Assembly to take from that fund, which is exactly why it was decreased from 10 to 6. And it was always promised that it would get back up, but it never has. And now is the time to push it while the state is feeling flush.
Further complicate things, you check me when I get off the rails here. Income tax used to be 3%.
Right.
Right? And counties and local governments got 10% of that income tax increase. So they reduced our percentage. All the new money went to the state. So
That's correct.
that's kind of the circular argument, is the state saying, we didn't take it from you. But
Yeah, you did. I'll still say, it. Yeah, you did.
you know what, we really want to, and we messaged a lot with Shaylin when we were down there. It's just like, we want to be your partners in keeping the brakes on property tax. But to do that, and to meet all these mandates, we got to get our piece of that income tax puzzle.
And this is something that the COGS, the councils of governments, have all been working very closely on, even up until the last 5 minutes, where we've been exchanging emails about supporting these bills, and then getting our, like my job is to get the McHenry County legislators to sign on as co-sponsors for these bills. So that email went out to them. In the past, they have been very supportive of it. There comes a little bit of a push-pull at budget time, but we're hoping that at least one of these 4 bills can get through, so.
And Senator DeLuca is a former mayor, so,
Mhm.
and he's also the chair of that House committee that deals with it, so it makes sense that he would be the bill sponsor that actually got some traction.
As far as other legislative update information for you, we are trying to, well, I say we, I mean the Sheriff's Office is trying to secure additional funding for the training center. And it is, well, it is congressionally directed spending season over in the federal side of the fence. And, you know, we have been in contact with Representative Schakowsky's district, as she is the representative that the facility is housed in. And we have been in contact with her staff and saying, what is going on? How do we, you know, avail ourselves and apply for this kind of funding? And they've been responsive, they've helped us, and they've also encouraged us to, you know, reach out to Senator Duckworth's office as well. And they've given us a very helpful list of dates and, you know, when we can, you know, learn more about the information.
Carol?
Would that be under the community funding grants? So their deadline is the 17th?
For the House, yes, that's the 17th, yes.
We're working on getting letters of support now from the Village of Cary. The COG is going to put in a letter of support, so we'll get all that submitted.
We're also looking to help the Randall Road funding and get that same bucket. So, working with Senator Duckworth on that as well.
So the question is, outside of what you have in front of you and how we're presenting that, are there any other areas that you would like us to track on behalf of you know, this committee and the full board that you think, you know, would be of interest to you? Or can we keep it kind of sort of exactly what we've talked about, which is legislation that we know that the COG is paying attention to for both municipalities as well as for townships and counties, and then the legislation that we obviously have formally taken positions on? Otherwise, I think what you have in front of you, that you got, the draft, is pretty much what we'd like to take and present to the full board, and then send to our legislators. You can whisper yes, what do you want to do?
Sorry, I just want to mention witness slips. I've been talking with Ed Marcuson over at the DOT, and there was a bill that has been introduced this week, a prevailing wage bill that would greatly impact public works projects. And it was heard in committee today, but there's like 300 opponents of the bill, including a lot of municipalities. And the DOT wasn't sure if they were able to submit witness slips in regards to that bill, and Peter gave some great advice. I don't believe that they did at the current hearing, but that if it impacts budgets, that it could be. But we were in a little bit of a gray area when I was talking with Ed about if the county is able to do witness slips.
I say yeah. I mean,
But when here's where we get into the grammar.
Yeah.
Who's the county? Chairman Bueller can do what Chairman Bueller wants because he's that elected and he's the head and he's an entity unto himself. If again, we can all do it individually as individuals because we can do that. That's right, our right as individuals. So who's the county? Is that, are we telling you to do that as the county administrator?
no, and really, I'm glad we brought this up.
Yeah.
We thought we need to talk about
No,
that. You know, when we
I'm-
I said, Ed, you know, you put it in for DOT, this costing you money, and I refer to, you know, our tenants here. We need to have these, we need to have these so staff can react quickly and make decisions. And looking at these, I was like, yeah, go ahead, you know, put something in.
But maybe we need to develop a policy that says when it's the you know, the county, departments, you know, they can, when it follows within this, they can file their own witness slips. I mean, anybody in this room, you know, can oppose or support depending upon their own. It's who is the county and who has the authority to do that. Maybe we need to develop a better, clearer policy that kind of covers those situations.
Yeah. And again, I mean, I feel like there are some pieces that are pretty straightforward. For example, you know, the Randall Road, you know, you guys have already issued, you know, resolutions of.
There's no question as to the board's position.
There's no question there.
Right, but what I'm talking about specifically under this, and again, it's the same situation that I was talking about. It's hard for you to call every single county board member and have them do something. But if we want to create a policy that says, if something like that comes up, whatever department, whatever, you know, staff person is authorized as long as it follows, you know, whatever the policy is.
You know, occasionally there's gray areas and you have professional staff who have to make decisions, but if we need to seek counsel from you guys, we'll do that.
Well, yeah, and
Generally,
Chairman Bueller can always file as chairman of the county if it's important enough, right? I mean, certainly our former individual did that.
If it's
so.
pretty straightforward, I'm comfortable with our office,
TV.
these guys, you know, representing the county as opposed or against
Me too.
or in favor of something, but it's gotta be based on these foundational tenets. And if it's not, then I don't wanna touch it.
Do we want to have some kind of policy out of this committee? Do we want to take a policy from this committee to include in our board rules? You know, on how you do, I mean, I'm open.
Is
This
this
is a
document
policy.
sufficient, Pam?
I'm asking my committee if it is.
You're
Mr. Short.
speaking in regards to witness slips, or are we talking on a broader level?
It could be as simple as a witness slip, it could be a broader, if again, we need somebody to go down and testify or be in an audience, I would think it would expand beyond that.
You know, electronic witness slips are a little bit of a newer tool, but for years we've had to quickly, you know, if somebody calls, are you in favor of this or not? Sometimes we gotta look at this and say, it's consistent with our tenants or it's not consistent with our tenants. You know, if I were writing a letter, you know, and I'll be, you know, representing what the county's position is, sometimes we had to, you know, make a decision based on this.
And that's what I'm saying, it would be more of us letting staff say yes, that they're comfortable that the board has kind of taken this position. But if we need to develop a clearer policy, or take a policy and or suggestion to add to the rules so that it's covering the decision. I mean, I've always been real comfortable in the past that the board's been very supportive of those positions, but I leave that up to you guys. I mean.
Well, I believe the tenants cover what our beliefs are, and therefore the job given to them, especially on the expedience of witness slips, I believe they should have the latitude, so long as it falls in the tenants, to do that on our behest. Now, I get on my emails all the time from various sources about witness slips, and I'm doing them as Matt Kunkel, not as a board member, all the time. I appreciate the fact that they're taking care of a few of those, provided they fit in our parameter here. I wouldn't want to get way out in the weeds with that. But
It's not everything fits squarely in one of these, and that's where we gotta step back, you know.
Yeah.
But you can err on the side of caution, which you've always done, which you've always done, which you've always done. I mean, I don't know how formal we want to get. I mean, I'm pretty comfortable that the people who we have hired to represent us don't go beyond where they're comfortable.
But does that result in an email, or does that result in actually coming to a committee before that happens? That's the question.
We wouldn't have
As
to
long, no,
do
I'm,
it.
I'm saying as long as it stays in the tenants, within the policies, I'm fine.
Okay.
And we know what legislation, because it's gone through committee and it's been presented to the board, whether we take, you know, a resolution or whether we just say this is legislation, we're gonna find a representative to carry. I'm just saying again, when it's a situation like a prevailing wage that comes up, you know, I'm okay that our people who represent McHenry County know who we are and what we represent. And we'll go beyond that when there's a question of where we might land on that.
Yeah, so I'm just thinking of, if you look at the tenants, number 3 and number 6, those could be in conflict. You know, unfunded mandates, but benefit the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens. So I'm thinking right now of, is it single-use plastics? Is that the one that's in the house now? Banning single-use, there's something like that.
I'm sure it is, it's been there every year.
Right.
But that's not a county issue.
It's not.
But it could be, what I'm wondering is, could it be that the health department would have to monitor that? Would they,
No, it's prohibiting its use.
so they wouldn't be monitored by the health department?
Doubtful. Doubtful.
Okay, that's just where I'm,
But you're right, there's gonna be issues that
There's
are.
gonna
Right.
be issues that are gonna be gray.
so I would be more comfortable if there's something gray like that maybe they
Yeah.
reach out to.
Absolutely.
If there's time and if there's not, they do
Yeah.
nothing, right? You're on the side of
Right.
caution, you do
Right.
nothing.
Exactly.
You don't, you know, it doesn't fall within
Yeah.
our clear tenants, and so there's not enough time, because that's what's gonna happen.
Yeah, and I would, if you would email us then, you know, I've filed a witness slip on behalf of you guys, or on behalf of the county.
Right, of course,
Yeah.
and I mean, and you can see from some of the bills that I flagged for you, I mean, some of them I felt, you know, the ones I flagged were the apple pie bills. For example, one of them in there is about, you know, the state offering money for, you know, to pay for election judges over a certain amount of money. Well, I look at it and say, well, that falls strictly within the legislative tenets, that's, you know, more money for the county, I don't think anybody's gonna say they don't like apple pie, you know? So, I mean, and, you know, and if you guys are happy, and that's why I bring them forward to you, because if, on the off chance that you don't like apple pie, if you tell me, Alicia, don't do anything with that.
Just real quick, I file witness slips on behalf of the COG. They're few and far between, they have to be very important, and we have a very strong opinion about them. But it's never me filing them in the middle of the night. I've always quickly vetted it either through, you know, staff or my president or someone that was directly, so it's nothing that, there is a process, and there are people that, there's been some that I've thought to support, and then it's been like, oh, no, we've
That's what I'm
discussed
saying.
it, so.
Again, unless there is a scenario, or there becomes a situation where that might be a bad thing that happened, I think we're good. I mean, I think the process we currently have in place may not be formal, but it's formal enough.
And we would be happy to report back on any slips that we do file, just because I think.
That's the one thing we did
We
talk about
gotta
today,
own,
is just
if
letting
we,
us
if
know.
we make a decision to do it, we
Right.
gotta own it and tell you.
That would be helpful. But I mean, if you're okay with that, I would just take that as a concurrence that we continue to operate the way that we've always done in the past, and so I think we're good.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Do you have a status on where we are with our dissolution, with the repeal of that, or do you?
Yes.
Can you give us a report?
I did speak with Representative Ness on that, and she said she's still working,
With Curtis? With
yeah,
Chairman?
with leadership to get it built.
Okay. So if I don't have anything, what I would like, I think, is a formal motion to send the draft of our legislative program to the full board. Do we need to do that?
If we've got concurrence, we've created a resolution, we can slap it on, and it'll go under new and unfinished business.
Okay. Do I have concurrence so we can go ahead and do that?
Yep.
Then please. We do not need executive session? So then, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Ms. Wagner, Mr. Shorten.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. I really appreciate it.